It's recording is on.
Hello and welcome to the Monday, December 21st, 2020 BizDev meeting. On the agenda today, we have new member introductions that the guys are already here and they will introduce themselves in a second. I guess an API 3 update from Dave. I'll press feedback request from Neyman, who's on the call as well. And another topic to talk on is a continued chat from last week on DXDAO entrepreneur or partner onboarding and collaboration. So there's supposed to be Matic coming in as well, but it looks like they'll postpone to next week. So yeah, do we want to start with the member introduction? Bernard, and I think Tony maybe as well, or no, Tony was here last week. Oh, Stephen. Yeah. So yeah, do you want to start, Bernard? Introduce yourself, and
I'll let Stephen go first.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sweet. Hi guys, Stephen here in Denver, Colorado. Bernard and I went into business, started an independent consulting company earlier this year. And we've been talking to Christopher the last couple of months about a few ideas. And he mentioned that DXDAO might be looking at ways to incubate / accelerate new projects or ideas within the DXDAO ecosystem. So we're here to discuss that a bit. I put together a few just really basic slides to talk about some of the stuff that we were going to do. I don't know if it would be best to do that towards the end. As you guys start talking about like entrepreneur and partner onboarding stuff, or how you'd like to do that, just let me know.
Yeah, maybe we could start with just a few slides. Like once we finish like the Alpress feedback, we can start with your slides and then continue off the discussion.
Cool. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I'm Bernhard. I'm obviously working with Stephen, as he pointed out. I've been in the sort of the decentralized space for the last, I don't know, since 2016, 15, 16, and before that in the distributed space. So, and I have one of my penchants is for privacy shielding and threshold signatures and all kinds of saves and vaults and just ways to improve interaction with decentralized systems. So, and I think Steve's gonna have the deck for that. If you have any questions, probably easier than me droning out.
Yeah, so thanks, Bernard, Stephen. Welcome and nice to have you guys here. Yeah, anyone wants to comment before we we'll give the stage to Dave? Yeah, welcome, guys. Okay, Dave, take it away.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking the time to chat to me. Just to give you a little bit of background about the conversations that API 3 have had with DXDAO, we've been on a couple of calls now with various members and discussed the best way to integrate API 3's future DAPIs to Omen's prediction markets. And I think probably the easiest way of starting would be to address some of the questions that you guys might have about API 3. I know that Sky had a few, so I can always go back to those as posted in DAO Talk, but I was wondering if anybody here had any questions about how API 3 was going to work and what you guys were looking to get from this call, really, in terms of answers about how the integration would look.
Yeah, I mean, I can say a no because that. So I was hoping that to get the discussion more lively and going in the forum, which is, I asked those questions. I don't know if everyone's read them. You can just search API 3 in the forum. It's the latest post. But
yeah, I'll stick the link in the chat as well.
Yeah, like my overall feeling of some of the questions was how to treat this more maybe as a partnership than the way it initially was framed, kind of like almost selling a service like for money, but instead of money, it's like rep. And so we're kind of thinking, how could we help each other? And then like, I agree, like it's great to have API 3, like earn and get rep and voice in DXDAO and maybe vice versa as well. But usually we see those as like things that progress over time. So I guess it's a little hard to like pinpoint numbers on like X amount of reputation per month, because we haven't never really used rep as like payment. So I kind of had some questions about like, should we be paying for this initially? Should we just like integrate it, use it, help you, and like give awesome feedback and help you improve the service? Or and you know, should we pay money for it, or would it be best for you to like earn rep via that in place of payment kind of thing?
Okay, I think from our point of view, from you guys, we weren't really looking for payment. We were looking for a long-term relationship to develop out of it. So we want to be able to provide data to Omen and to other projects that DXDAO can use. And the rep was requested so we could kind of have a say in shaping that if necessary. If you think the requested rep is too high, then that's fine. I can reduce that. That shouldn't be an issue. And actually what we were planning on doing as well as that was a token swap, which is, it's kind of complicated because you mentioned an exchange of rep. Our rep is, well, not really our rep, our voting power is given by staking API 3 tokens. So rep to a degree is free for you to give, whereas our tokens to be staked would need to come from our DAO treasury. So we would, I think it might be an idea to do a swap of API 3 for DXD tokens to align the long-term financial incentives around DXD token holders. And we could always think about reducing the rep requested, because that way API 3 is aligned with the different parts of the DXD ecosystem, because you have some people who have DXD tokens and are looking to see those involved in governance. I don't know what you're thinking. I'm just putting ideas out there.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that is another thing to consider. It's actually interesting because there's a similar conversation to this with Gnosis, which we've been working with Gnosis for a very long time, DXDAO has, and making sure incentives and the long-term alignment is in place there as well. So this would be a similar, like newer, younger relationship, but how that's done, like, unfortunately, we don't have a great answer for it yet. So like, this could be a good way to help us figure out how to create that longer term partnership with someone like API 3. But it's going to take some time and some discussions, I think. If anyone else has any thoughts about this.
Yeah, so we are also in discussion with another team to have like a partnership. Both like you guys and the other team, they went like all in and prepared like a big package, and we are kind of cautious about going all in with like a big token swap and like 8% of rep minting, just because we don't know how we work together, right? That's like, it's very undefined how we will like merge into like two teams working on Omen, and that's why we're a little bit cautious about like going all in, and rather like starting working together slowly and learning, working from DAO to DAO, partnership, not partnership. Like we need to work together, right? At the end of the day, we need to like and like in general, I'm definitely fine with you guys inviting into the DXDAO organization via rep over time, just because it's like important that you guys have a say about Omen, and any Oracle question regarding the DXDAO, we will need oracles, not only for Omen. So I'm definitely looking forward to come together and define like at least like a short-term technical delivery from both sides, with like clear clear rewards for both DAOs. And that's like that is, I think, the best way forward. Yeah, and after we see how that worked, I think we could even look a little bit further ahead, like, and I think that's my view how we should move forward.
I think that would make sense. Almost something like creating a kind of test market on Omen for one specific thing using a specific API, and then making sure that that works. Would that be the kind of thing you were meaning?
Yeah, I mean, that's like definitely like we could even think a little bit more short term in terms of like deliveries. That, I mean, that is of course very clear what that means. Yeah, so yeah, that's definitely part of it, that you guys actually showcase us how your technology works, and that I expect we will take some time to like really dig into. From Omen itself, there's a lot of tech stack. It doesn't look like it's like complicated, but we're using actually complicated stuff made by Gnosis Safe Proxy Kit, conditional token framework, the market itself, and yeah, getting together, working together, and then defining how we looking into like years of engagement and partnership is something we need to do.
Yeah, I think I agree. And maybe the best kind of thing to do would be if we arrange a call with the Omen developers and our developers and agree a kind of a proof of concept, effectively, something that we can do to prove that the air node works and deliver basic data about something relevant, and then formulate a proposal around that might be a good starting point, and then scale up by kind of serial proposals. So if that works, then we work out a way to integrate a more advanced version into Omen with a slightly higher rep amount. And at some point along the way, if it looks like it's going to make sense for us to carry on working together, which I think it will, then a token swap long-term to align financial incentives, I think makes sense for both parties. Personally.
Yeah, and I think it's important to keep the, like, as you said, even if you're focusing on this like proof of concept short-term thing, keeping in mind that this is something to try to scale to a longer term, and to keep the short term and the long term kind of going at once, should be the goal.
Yeah, well, I think that's why a token swap makes a lot of sense, because that's how you can incentivize a DAO to work long term.
Yeah,
goal as well.
Right, and I think that's one of the interesting things about this is it's not just finding what to collaborate on; it's aligning interests so that therefore you are like automatically working together because the interests are aligned. And it's just the other thing I'd say is one of the things that DXDAO is working on and promoting is Swapper in terms of building its liquidity. So I think that's a kind of component when we think of different partnerships and how we work through that.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I want to say maybe even just so just setting the intention with even something that it's just a signal, swap $1,000 worth of tokens, even for the first kind of MVP engagement. I think it just says quite a bit. And then later we could scale that to like a more meaningful token swap.
I mean, I don't know if just $1,000 is that useful. I guess as a signal, maybe, but yeah, if you think it would help, we can put that in. Sure.
Yeah, as someone who's like product management and making sure Omen is moving on and progressing, I rather care much more about a merged delivery, like with Omen, which is a way stronger signal about the capability between those two DAOs, like starting this journey together. So like I would rather have this technical delivery in terms of MVP with API 3 oracles. Yeah, I think that is way more impactful for both of the DAO.
Okay, that makes sense.
Dave, would you be able to either get the data from API 3, or I don't think you'd have it running on XDAI as well, but would you be able to, is there a way to get the data onto XDAI chain as well? Because we have plans to have Omen on XDAI, and that's that's a place where like you could see there's a price, like an ETH price market settling every day, right? And then you're going to need a price oracle feeding into those markets, and it's cheaper and easier and faster, right? Versus the mainnet Omen is much slower and bigger size and, you know, bigger notionals and stuff. So I'm wondering if we could leverage your oracle also on XDAI.
Yeah, we can run on any EVM compatible chain. So we've announced an integration on Matic, who you're speaking to at some point anyway. And we're going to be doing a proof of concept hackathon for those from mid-January to coincide with ETH India. But yeah, we can deploy any Airnode enabled API can be used by any EVM chain. So we can set up a decentralized API on XDAI for sure. The original architecture for our Ethereum feeds was to aggregate the data on XDAI between APIs and then bridge the actual data point across to Ethereum to lower gas prices as well. So basically, if we're going with that, then all of the ETH feeds will be natively available on XDAI to start with, but it's trivial for us to spin up a new one anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, and like to Sky's point regarding XDAI, like we already are testing on the testnet XDAI network the Omen with the mainnet bridge, and I think that is like a perfect test platform for your guys' technology with scalar markets, small markets where we could fuck it up in some way and like reimburse, like worst case scenario, right? And I think that is also good for you guys to really test out your technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting model to test it. It's something that we've been exploring, like, because you don't want it just to be there and to theoretically be used. You want people to actually do it. And something that we're thinking about would be maybe incentivizing a prediction market that uses it. So we make, say, price data available, and then the prediction market that generates the most volume using an API 3 data feed as settlement, we would give a bounty to. So something like that. But obviously this is all very early stages. It's just something that we think would help and would be a good way of getting people to use it. And it's similar to when we talk about other chain integration, we're starting off with a hackathon to stress test everything so that people use it, people are incentivized to use it, do a bug bounty. So if people see problems, they flag up nice and early. And it's also a good way of getting usage to the blockchain or the platform that we're on. So doing that through incentivizing prediction markets works the same way.
So from what I'm hearing here, Geronimo, there's like an action item. I think that might be like a bit longer term, but you know, figuring out an integration with API 3 for Omen, whether it's on XDAI or on mainnet. But what other like action items do we have right now? Anything immediate?
I think one would be for me to set up a technical call with the Omen developers.
Yeah.
From our side,
exactly.
as an action item, come up with a reasonable proof of concept and timeline, and then come back to you guys with that as a proposal, rather than going for everything from the start, if that makes sense. Yeah,
yeah. I think like both teams need to define the deliveries from our side. Like I think we will need to change a few UI related components to give like some room for the API 3 integration. So yeah, we need to define both deliveries on both sides. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure to reach out to you guys regarding a meeting this week.
Yeah, cool.
For this week. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
All right, so this is... Go ahead.
Sorry, just maybe I get a couple quick questions. I understand if you want to keep the meeting going. Just curious how voting power works with the API 3 now. Like, what has the voting power?
You stake your API 3 tokens into a pool, and then that gives you the ability to create proposals and vote. The threshold for proposal creation, I don't think, is fully decided yet, but there'll be a certain minimum amount of voting power you need for it. And then that pot, the staked pot, is used to collateralize the quantifiable insurance for feeds. So that way, if the governors make a mistake, the DApp is compensated out of the staking pool, basically. And in turn for them staking the tokens, they're rewarded with a with a DAO-defined release of extra tokens through inflation. And whenever dApps are paying for data feeds, they'll be doing that by burning API 3 tokens. So increased usage will decrease token supply, while everybody who's staking for governance is still getting tokens through emission. And equally, although there's inflation through that, if you're partaking in governance, you won't be diluted because the new tokens are distributed proportionally. But it incentivizes people to check what they're doing, be really careful, and also not to over-insure and over-commit, and basically to take on a proportional amount of risk. So.
Yeah, so I think that is definitely crucial for us, right? I expect, at least long term, we will request data via API endpoints. Like we need Oracle data specifically for a variety of purposes. So if we are not participating in API 3 governance, we can't request anything, right?
Yeah, you should be able to request. So the people who use the data don't have to partake in governance. So the DAO itself is separate to the data feeds and the clients. And actually the finished version of these DAPIs, which is what we're calling data feeds, you'll be able to subscribe to without speaking to the DAO. You'll be able to do it all on the chain, basically. So there'll be wallets that you top up that give you periodic access to the DAPIs.
Do you see an argument for letting the DXDAO joining the API 3 governance?
I think it would make a lot of sense if you guys partook in governance, because you're one of the biggest DAOs out there. You have a lot of members who are very, very versed in how DAOs run and the issues that come along the way with scaling DAOs. So from that point of view, I mean, we're very into the data side of things, but all of the opinions that you might have about the rest of how DAOs run and also developing the dApps, they could all help. Just I have a hard stop in about 2 minutes. I have another call to go on. But what do you guys feel? Would you be interested in helping govern API 3?
I think this is kind of like a topic of its own for DXDAO, participating in governance of other DAOs. Obviously, you know, there's a want and need from like both sides to do that. The question is, you know, on what bandwidth? How do you keep in being like this DAO updated with, you know, the other DAOs? Like,
well, you can actually delegate governance with the API model as well, with the API 3 model. So you can stake your tokens and delegate them to another wallet, so they'll be able to vote and make proposals using your tokens as well. So which makes things a bit simpler if you don't want to have to get involved in every decision.
Yeah, we've explored, we've explored a lot of these things, but I think what's exciting about this is you guys, and I would say put Gnosis in this too, are the type of people that we would actually like to experiment with this stuff on, because it's, you know, it's hard to come up with, you know, a flow for this, but I think we could, this would be something maybe worth putting some resources into. One of the things I think is also exciting is we're also looking to introduce governance somehow away from like Ethereum a little bit, right? And we've talked a lot about like hardware in general, so I know this doesn't get us all the way there, but I think that would be an interesting, at least, expansion of our governance capabilities.
Cool. Well, I'm going to have to head off. Really sorry that I have to duck out early, guys, but thanks for the chat. Geronimo, I will email you or message you some information about when we can meet this week, and we can get that set up quickly.
Sounds great. Thank you, Dave.
If you guys have any other questions, then feel free to put them in the DAO Talk thread or message me on Keybase. Okay. And thanks for your time, everyone.
Thanks, Dave.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye, Dave.
Okay, so should we move on? Neyman, are you here? Maybe chat quickly about the Alpers feedback request, and then we can move on to the next section. So do you want to go, Neyman? You're not muted, but we can't hear you.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes, now it works.
The same thing as last week, just GT doesn't like Firefox. I had to switch to Brave. So hi, everyone. I'm not going to take much of your time. I was here already a few times. Specifically, I was here last week, and I said we are going to drop a link for the thing that we are developing. It's called Alpress. It's a self-governing platform for article publication. So it's kind of a self-governing medium, which is controlled by, a DAO. And the idea is that eventually the authors would be the ones who actually manage that. We dropped a link in Keybase in the DXbiz channel. And then we also opened afterwards like an Almoni channel in DXDAO, like sub-channel under the DXDAO in Keybase. And we got lots of feedback. And I'm here, I don't know how many people actually saw the link and besides the one who gave feedback. So I'm here to let you know that you can come to the Almoni channel and DXDAO. You can see the link. We got a lot of feedback on the editor. We actually also want feedback on how the blogs themselves look, like, from the reader side. I think this is basically it. I would also like to mention that if anybody has tried it and have live feedback here, it will be great. And of course, like in Almonate, we would like to collaborate with DXDAO on this Alpress product, to fit it to your needs and see what we can do. If there are any ideas about it, it will be great. But if not, I can always later on open a topic in DAO Talk. Thanks.
Great, sounds good. Do you want to maybe drop the link to the instructions here in the chat as well?
Oh, right. Sure.
So people could try it out instead of listening in the call. No, I'm joking.
No, I mean, they should. It's a very good link.
Yeah, so maybe to continue to the next topic, something we started discussing last week. It's kind of, wait, I'll mute you. Oh. It's kind of discussing how do different companies and different entrepreneurs come and do work for DXDAO. I think there's a lot of potential here for guys like Bernard and Steven. And I've heard of a lot of other sort of entrepreneurs or devs who want to maybe do some temporary work or certain bounty or something like that for the DXDAO. This is kind of like an open discussion on how to do that. How do we onboard them? And yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to start.
Well, I'm excited to hear what you guys are working on, but in general, we have had scenarios where people on their own with ideas that DXDAO thought that idea would benefit DXDAO. We've funded work on those ideas. I think one was for a few months, maybe 2 or 3 months of a project. And, in that scenario, there was an idea, there was initial funding, there was delivery points that were met, there was additional funding, and then it's still being worked on. And so I think there is very strong appetite for DXDAO to fund those things, assuming that it's a product/service related to DXDAO or the DeFi space and will benefit the group overall. So that I think DXDAO is wide open to things like this.
I would maybe add one feedback to this, that it kind of has to be with a long-term commitment. So for example, Rails there's like ZK payment solution that is also like that was built on a DXDAO. It's a great tool, right? But it doesn't seem like anyone is actively pushing it in any way. I'm not sure like about the development, but at least like from, you know, kind of like a more, you know, marketing or, you know, I don't know, like community aspect, it doesn't really look like that anyone is trying to push it like and like trying to get usage onto it. And that is kind of like, you know, where I would like kind of like try to make a priority, right? Make sure that this is like really, that we only fund projects and teams, you know, who want to like build something for the long term.
Yeah, in that case, like the developer or entrepreneur did their job. They kind of like launched Rails, like got it to this point, and then that's where like DXDAO can have the ability to push it into their community in terms of distribution, but also even like users too. So yeah, I think Rails is there's a whole bunch of things with it without getting into that, but I think that's a good example. I think two things on this broadly. One, I really think it's all about workers. You want to have a place to attract smart, interesting people that want to build things. No one really knows if that's going to be like they've got like a big idea that they want to launch themselves, or they want to contribute to some ideas on that. I think it's really about like making it a place to grow for people and explore. Second is on the types of the distinguishing feature of DXDAO, or like what makes DXDAO competitive in this. Yes, it's some of the marketing communications things in terms of being able to push it to a community, but there's also complementary products that DXDAO has. So of course with Swapper now, like the next thing that we're talking about is how do we build other features or products on top of that. And I think there's some ideas about having some credit-based system, for instance, in Swapper. And so that's a really great position to be in because we have like Swapper already. And so that's an inviting place for a developer to come in, is to build something on top of that. And lastly, we also have, DXDAO also has the ability to provide liquidity behind something. Like, okay, you can launch some product, and because DXDAO has a treasury and a community, it can provide like a platform for that. So I think there are a lot of different ways we can be of service in helping products and ideas grow, both within our products, but also kind of including additional outside entrepreneurs coming in.
Also, it's important to clear out that the fact that Mesa and Rails have been gifted by to the DXDAO. It wasn't being born inside the DXDAO, outside, like from the DXDAO. So if there's not like an entrepreneur who's like saying, okay, this is my product, I'm gonna make sure it is successful, I have a plan, then there is no plan. Like if there's no one coming up and saying, okay, I will take this responsibility, like I can't force anyone to do that, right? If we don't have that, if Federico, who is the main builder of that product, is signaling he's rather caring about Swapper because he cares about the DXDAO, then sadly those products, like, they don't get pushed.
Yeah. And
like we see with Omen, that's like another point. It was like a very strong merge between the DXDAO and Gnosis. Gnosis did a lot of like backend stuff, but everything else was made by DXDAO. So we consider Omen's like definitely made by us, because we gave like the brand, and the product itself is made by us. And there's a team who's like very focused and wants to make sure it's successful. And Swapper, like even more crazy, protocol and front end and team is completely born out of DXDAO. So we have like a variety of use cases. And now we see with Bernard and Steven, all right, am I right? Like who's like maybe coming in with a completely different use case, like a team with a vision, with a product, joining the DXDAO. And we need to make sure that we're like very welcoming and saying like, guys, you can do your thing here. It's your thing. but you're like part of this suite, part of this collective. So it's like another type of welcoming.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to like point out for Rails, right? So I mean, I'm incredibly grateful for like also like for Federico kind of like, you know, building that and kind of like gifting it also to DXDAO. It's just in the future, you know, I mean, even if things are, you know, being gifted to us, right? Should we, you know, continue pay for them, you know, even if we have like no long-term plan for it, and if no one really wants to take leadership for that, you know, that's kind of just, I mean, it probably gets like into like a different conversation. I just want to like, you know, say we should maybe kind of like draw the line somewhere. And then kind of like back to the topic, I wanted to say that entrepreneurs, you know, I mean, they are usually like driven by a mission, but all of them, you know, they also, you know, they eventually want to see like the potential to get rich out of this. And like what DXDAO like currently offers is like a great salary. And that is like a great way to start, right? But it's very difficult, at least from the outside. And I think so far it's very difficult for any entrepreneur to see, okay, like how can I make like, you know, how can I make like $1 million here eventually, right? And that is kind of like, which brings us back to the original token discussion of kind of like, you know, launching tokens for the DXDAO specific products, you know, because they clearly, you know, provide like very large upside potential. And yes, I know, you know, it's probably, we don't want, you know, mercenaries here who just want to get like, you know, who just want to make like a lot of money. I definitely don't want that as well. But, you know, you need financial upside to attract really good entrepreneurs. And not all of them are just mercenaries.
Yeah, I think that's also a great point, because like I also think it's a flaw, because like sometimes like we're maybe incentivized like employees, and basically sometimes we should be incentivized like owners in order to act like that. Like if you're VC and you want to incentivize your CEO, you will not give him salary, you will give him equity in the company, and that way he will make sure that that project succeeds. You know, that's also important. I think that's a good idea.
I think it maybe is possible to have a couple different models as well. Like, I mean, I think there is the question of like, could there be tokens for even the existing products? Like that is one question. But I think another possibility would be like a more of an incubation model where the project doesn't necessarily have to be like a core DXDAO product. And it could be some, you know, the DXDAO helps, you know, a project raise money with an IDO, maybe gives a little bit of money itself and some support, and then, you know, takes some share of a new token, which that is native to the project too. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure where people are thinking more.
Okay, I don't know, any other comments? Just to say, like, to, I guess what Christopher said earlier, it's an interesting balance, you know, for working with entrepreneurs who build stuff for the DXDAO. We obviously want to support people who want to build decentralized stuff, and it's very difficult. And I think DXDAO has the ability to supply them. Like, I mean, take the case from Monit. I think Neyman is not here anymore, but, you know, even the feedback sessions that, you know, you're doing to the product, and, you know, maybe DXDAO using it could provide a lot of insight for entrepreneurs like building something. And then the question here is, how do you split the, I don't know, the revenue or the potential future revenue? If it's a full project, then it might have a token, and then some of that token could go to DXDAO. If it's not, then how, you know, if someone is working really hard and is a full-time, like I don't know, working on a project, and, you know, DXDAO helps that, those two entrepreneurs should obviously, you know, have a huge upside in financial incentive. So yeah, I think this is an interesting question.
I'll just jump in here. And remember, DXDAO is building a suite of products to launch tokens. So like, we definitely want to be a place to like launch, I mean, whether it's, the IDO with Mesa or kind of things on Swapper and encouraging and investing in those things. I think it's like a great opportunity. And maybe this is kind of to John's point that there are many different models here of support that we can engage in.
To add something, what I'm trying to think about deal with Gnosis right now, and what I find out in this direction is that what's difficult in the normal world is like they're like structures for companies. It's everywhere the same, almost on the world. So, and I think what's really adds some complexity is that on every project has its own tokenomics, and so if you want to join or to make deals, it's sometimes it's really hard to find a deal between the different tokenomics because all are different, and so composability in this area is not really gifted for this kind of entities we are. And I think one problem with this that in the worst case you end up with different deals for every different entities who work together, and then the combination is like endless. So there's a lot of complexity which is added with this. And I think main goal for us as an organization maybe would be like to have like a framework, to agree on a framework how we can make these deals. Then then there's not this much creativity to find a solution for everyone, but there's a way to keep it manageable in a way. Also, and the other thing is the thing about fairness. Yeah, well, what's fair if somebody brings in a very good idea and he has like he has a market, he thinks he has a market, and we as an organization, we found part of this work, what's the deal, and best would do, of course, would be this deal to do like upfront, because afterwards it's more difficult to manage and to find a solution. Yeah, just my thinking.
Yeah, I think maybe an interesting model we could look into is a sort of, I don't want to say like an accelerator, but a project comes, it's a couple of people, they get the help of DXDAO in the fundraising, with the fundraising suite, maybe later with marketing, and then the DXDAO will get a certain % of their tokens, and support the project along the way. This could be like an interesting thing to look at. I guess this also depends on how progressed or how are we progressing with that fundraising suite, and if this is a path that we can offer entrepreneurs, and then maybe even do like a call out for entrepreneurs. Come, with the DXDAO. The DXDAO will obviously assess your project and its viability, but come and get incubated maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but this is an interesting angle for DXDAO if we want to really support decentralized products.
I mean, there is a way also to not just we don't need to work directly with the products or take in the products. We could just do the incubation by having a great network, great tools, and having the expertise. Like this is what I at least tried to talk about when we're talking about the Mesa Swapper and what else we're gonna have in the future. It's just to take a project from idea to working product to having them do a token and then do a token sale on Mesa, getting them on an aftermarket on Swapper. That could be enough, and then we could act like an advisory and help them when they need help. It doesn't need to be more than that. So it could be taking in external teams, and it could also just be advisory. We can take a look at how we could maybe, I don't know if we want to take a percentage of the token as a payment, or how it could look like. But I think that would be something we can do like soon.
I think that's interesting too, Zep, because I think there's a lot of small entrepreneurial teams in this space that are either exploring or interested in like launching a project, and they're looking at DAOs and doing it with the DAO. And I think for a small team, that's like a lot of work to take on. I mean, I think we all know from experience over last year how hard it is to build community and to even just operate a DAO, let alone, you know, start it from scratch. I mean, we had the fortune of Gnosis like kind of initiating this DAO. So I think being able to offer that structure, that kind of umbrella for, could be very valuable and like desired from a lot of like, you know, individuals and small teams.
Yeah, I mean, before I came to DXDAO, I kind of did work for another community-based DAO. They were not a real DAO, but their idea was to be a community-driven VC, basically, and a decentralized VC. And they are huge now. Like, they're really, really huge. They're much bigger than DXDAO. Their market cap is, yeah. And they are the only thing they are doing is what I told you. Like, they are basically doing incubation, and they are taking projects. They have a huge community already. They connect partners, so they're using their network to just grow an existing project already, and helping them like fundraise and yeah, get listed on different exchange. They have exchange partners, stuff like that. So I mean, we could go in different. Like, I think we should still have a niche where it's a lot about decentralization, maybe governance, and have, like, we should have our partners should be in line with our thinking. So I think we could have a niche where we're taking projects that is not just pump and dump or whatever. Like, it's just a long-term partners, long-term incubations, and I think there's a lot of room for this right now, because I don't know anyone else doing this.
Yeah, and I think there's quite a bit of entrepreneurs who don't want to actually go the VC route, and want to do something like more community or DAO oriented. Like, before we run out of time, I wanted to give maybe Steven and Bernard a few minutes to talk about like what they're doing, and you know, maybe we could put this in the context of what they have.
Yeah, I can jump in now. So real quick, earlier this year, you know, Bernard and I have worked together for a couple of years in the decentralized Web3 space. And earlier this year, we decided to go independent for a variety of reasons, but one of which is 2020 has been an interesting year for projects, protocols, layer ones maturing or beginning to mature in such a way that we can actually build, you know, some composable solutions using existing technologies in a shorter amount of time that accomplishes a very specific, you know, business or risk transformational goal. And so we've really been looking at what it would take to accelerate adoption of existing technologies by kind of weaving them together and offering them in a specific way. And as we talk about more and more different ideas and things we'd like to do, we keep coming back to governance, DAO governance, DeFi, and like John was just talking about, bootstrapping a DAO, a community, you know, people who are willing to participate in governance is a longer term play, right? I mean, it's very difficult, complicated, etc. So, you know, looking at DXDAO and what you guys have managed to do, and continuing to, we still have a lot of learning to do, but the ecosystem of DXDAO products is potentially extremely valuable for what it is we're looking to do, especially on the governance side. So I'm going to share my screen just real quick on this particular idea and go from there. So everything shared good?
Yeah,
yep.
I can see.
Awesome. So just quick TLDR here, you know, what, why, and how. So on the what side, we dove into some insurance options earlier this year, specifically as it comes to like multi-party computation and threshold signature wallets, et cetera, and ensuring transactions right at the time. And when Christopher approached us with some details about some DeFi mutual insurance and some gaps that exist there, it's really interesting, diving into and looking at what some of these DeFi insurance protocols have managed to do and how much their their coverage and staking has grown. And because of that, because being a mutual, the KYC component limits quite a large area of the world from being able to participate and get coverage. So we were looking at what it would take to extend coverage to underserved individuals through a wrapped NFT and extend their product coverage. And looking at the community kind of bootstrap approach, we realized that the most valuable way to do this in a more long-term sustainable way would be having some sort of distributor referral system, right? How can we encourage people to share that this coverage exists in different communities and translate articles and how-tos and the like, so that we get a greater reach? And how do we do that in a decentralized way that we can manage through a DAO and governance and the like? So that's the what. The why on that is kind of back to why we started our consulting company earlier this year, which is Web3 technology really allows some amazingly technically savvy people to do some really amazing useful stuff in a short amount of time. But reaching the desired market and doing it in the right way sometimes is a lot more complicated, either because of overall engagement or user experience or the like. And so being able to build on top of those and extend existing projects out to new markets is potentially very valuable. And then the how on this specifically is we were looking at actually building out the coverage to extend to underserved markets is the least complicated part of that, but building it up in a way that it can be shared and people know that coverage is available, and people who are sharing community side or the like can get rewarded for it in a way that's not Ponzi-like or Web3 solutions wrapped in Web2 style marketing, a la some of those ICOs that have been coming out, where you get rewarded for bringing more people and their money in, et cetera. So we're looking at decentralized incentivization and reward protocols to actually help accelerate this particular product. But the incentivization reward protocol would not just be applicable to this product, but any other product that would benefit from referral schemes or affiliate marketing. And the biggest part of that, as I mentioned off of what John was talking about, was the governance first approach, and bootstrapping that in the right way is a challenge. So any questions on that stuff so far? Cool. I'm just going to take another maybe 60 seconds. So, of course, the first use case we were looking at for this was insurance coverage, extending insurance coverage. So, there's an opportunity where Nexus Mutual, for instance, is insuring smart contracts. It's a high value, sustainable DeFi segment. And there is a very large underserved market at the moment. And the reason for that is that, regulatory requirements are limiting their ability to offer direct coverage to certain countries, et cetera, because of the the mutual insurance model with a legal entity in the United Kingdom that prevents certain countries from registering. And then just a quick little Bernard and I's background. Mine's sort of multifaceted across international business and computational physics. We've taken a lot of detours into data privacy standards, verifiability, regulation, standardization initiatives, and earlier this year took a detour into multi-party computation and threshold signature schemes for security. And then Bernard has an extensive background in distributed and decentralized systems for some pretty big names. And I like to call him the big brain, though he doesn't like he doesn't like when I do that. But yeah, we're just looking at accelerating adoption of various Web3 solutions and working with a really impressive community like DXDAO presents some interesting opportunities and the like. So just wanted to introduce ourselves, so when we drop more details on the forum or maybe a doc in Keybase or something, that you can put a face to the name and get some feedback and go from there.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Stephen. I think this is great, and yeah, I think maybe a discussion could develop on the DAO Talk forum, and that could be awesome to figure out how exactly we can collaborate. Is there anything else someone wants to add? Yeah,
sorry, real quick on that. Just a question for Stephen. I really like the framing of that idea. Like you mentioned, you're still figuring out like really what product and thing you might want to do. But when you have that figured out, is like how important is funding, like initial funding to help grow, like seed funding to help grow the idea into like get it to an MVP and stuff, and then like leverage community and things to expand. But like how important, like how could DXDAO help in that venture? I guess is my question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think yeah, absolutely. There's the funding to consider. There's the community bootstrap. There's even just feedback from experts that have spent quite a bit of time, building up a decentralized governance platform and essentially, developing a various array of products. There's a lot of different value, right? And I think we haven't had enough time yet to really sit down and work through and model out, how valuable is any sort of monthly cash flow versus just ensuring the success of the platform by bootstrapping on an existing DAO or something. So it's a multivariable problem that I don't think Bernard and I specifically have really had enough time to go over, and that's something we'd like to do over the next week or so. Drop some more details on the DAO Talk forum and figure out what that actually looks like, right? Because I think, as was mentioned earlier, looking at it from a worker-based salaries perspective is not, it's not really the most value add for us, right? I mean, the value add there's certainly some expenses and financing in play that would make things easier, but there's also the long-term, the success of the product, right? If we just wanted to, incubate something, put it out and let it go, that's another story. But setting it up for success and the unique opportunity for DXDAO is interesting. So I think we'll just kind of continue that on the forum and
cool.
Yeah, and let people ask some questions. And
another thing that came across my mind is you, like, by hanging out with DXDAO, you actually learn, we come up with like things that we wish existed all the time. And one example is, how can DXDAO or members of DXDAO made up of a large set of like 20 or 100 people or whatever run nodes? Like, can DXDAO run an Ethereum 2 node, or can the member, like different rep holders together, run a node? And the only way to do that in a decentralized way that I think is possible is using multi-party computation. And given that you're a multi-party computation expert, that is something that not only DXDAO will need, but like lots of DAOs are eventually going to need this. Like groups in a trustless way where the seed never exists together, the key never exists in one place together ever, can run things like nodes and control wallets, not from the actual DAO directly, but like in a roundabout way. So that would be like something that DAOs need. And if you guys are thinking about that in addition to other things, like it's interesting stuff like that you could solve probably.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a pet passion of ours right now, but be careful asking Bernard and I about MPC in an unrelated call, because we could talk for a very long time.
Let me just jump in here real quick and actually do put that face to the the conversation. The part is a really interesting one, and obviously everybody needs funding, but one of the things when I got to go back a little bit, we originally were part of a company that had an ICO, and we very strongly feel that the ICO, although the ICO was successful, was not necessarily benefiting the company as much as it could have or should have. And because there was a lot of pressure to produce things that weren't really necessarily helpful in the long run. And this is why we're sort of walking a little bit on the funding part, because it has to be a good situation for everybody, because with funding come commitments, and we really want to be in a position to succeed, particularly in a DAO structure, which in my opinion is very, very harder to live up to than a centralized structure.